Hey, everybody. Very special call tonight. We have the famous Rob Sperry on with us tonight. We just finished his book, The Game of Conquering. And I know, based off the feedback, how much you guys loved it. I know I loved it. And so he's carved out time to come and hang out with us tonight and answer our questions. So, Rob, you want to say hi, Rob? I'm going to introduce you. But just
What's happening, ladies? Thanks for making time. I know it's an evening, right? Sounds like you guys just had a whether team or company call, and we never want to overdo those, but I'll do my best to over deliver for you and answer any questions. Nothing's off limits.
awesome. Well, we're very excited. Okay, so Rob he was the number one recruiter out of 1 million distributors in his company with a team that expanded to 40 countries. So that's very impressive. And he's now not affiliated with a company. He's a network marketing trainer. And I've listened to his podcast, read several of his books, and I've just been super impressed. I think it's quality. It's all done with excellence. And I just love his heart. And so that makes me trust him because he's not like a he's not a sales trainer that is all about just getting the sale, although he does help you get a sale or get the business builder, but he does it with pure motives, I feel like. And so it's not manipulative like some network marketing trainers can be. And I just appreciate that. So for me, that builds trust. And I just really love to hear his perspective on things. So I'm really excited for you guys to hear from him tonight. All right. So, Rob, let's talk about your story. Can you just tell us a little bit about you, your background, how'd you end up here, what happened in your network marketing business? Just kind of tell us who you are and your whole your
My
story.
whole life story.
Yeah, tell us.
Love long walks on the beach with the sunset. I get distracted when my wife walks by me when she's wearing Lululemon. Should be illegal. She has way too much power over me, right? All the good stuff. No, I started out, I was a tennis guy, tennis coach. That was the only thing I ever did. As far as like, I mean, I played college tennis, played semi-pro. And after that, I taught tennis and then I ran a tennis club. That was a dream for me. And so for me, doing anything else it wasn't just income, it was an identity thing that just felt foreign and super super scary. But I was a wannabe entrepreneur who was crazy ambitious, and so I'd ask everyone at the tennis club, all these, I mean, these people made so much money. I mean, so much money. I mean, two of them were billionaires, and I would just ask them, what'd you do, how'd you make your money, and pick their brains. And over the course of years, eventually I had someone that had made over $30 million in network marketing that personally sponsored me and said he would coach me and train me and show me how to do it. And I'm like, oh, like really? I'd said no to 11 different network marketing companies. And I'm thinking in my mind, like, you only do that if you're struggling. And then he tells me it's skincare. So I'm like, wait, this dude's telling me we're doing network marketing and skincare. And he's excited about it. And he's like, yeah, there's this handheld device and it helps with like cellulite stretch marks. And I'm literally like telling jokes in my mind. I'm like, so am I supposed to call my buddies up and say, hey, dude, we're gonna watch a football game, halftime, we're gonna firm up that left cheek. I saw it in the locker room, a little cellulite there, saggy. Like I'm legit having like all these like midlife crisis. I was like 28 years old. I'm like, what am I thinking? And he just really cast a vision really well. Part of his vision, he's told me it would be the hardest thing I'd ever would do, but it would be the most worthwhile. He never pitched it as easy. He said it's gonna be so hard. He said, but guess what? Someday, he said, all those sacrifices, someday every day will be a birthday, every day will be an anniversary, every day will be a holiday. And that just hit home for me because my book that just came out is Die with Memories, Not Just Dreams. And that's where I go through a lot of that, and just talk about, that was always the goal. Was I just wanted to create a ton of memories and dreams. So yeah, number one recruiter, 1 million distributors sounds great, but as you've learned, I had my fifth month in the business where I made less than $400 for the month, worked 80 hours a week. I could have gone to work at McDonald's making minimum wage and I would have been filthy rich compared to network marketing. And so it's easy to hear all the highlights, but it was a struggle. I mean, I was sharing with my son who's 19. He was asking me all the questions of the highs and the lows, and it's like I thought I'd arrived, and then a team fell apart, and didn't know how to be a leader. I was a good recruiter, right? And so it took years and years and years of just trial and error, trial and error. I think it just failed forward faster than most people, and eventually through I mean, countless failures over and over and over again. I felt like I finally broke through, and it was fun. So about 2017, I sold my position and went into coaching, speaking, consulting, and if you remember, I was a tennis coach prior to network marketing, so it was more of it's natural transition for me. That was never the plan. That's always the question asked. Like, for me, I actually made fun of coaches. I'm like, if you can't build, you train and coach. I also made fun of network marketing, so now I'm careful what I make fun of. But living in Utah, I just knew so many leaders and companies that asked me to help. And after I sold my position, eventually like, we can't have you keep coaching our teams and consulting if you go back in the field. And so I'd never even thought about it. So I took almost a year until I finally made that commitment. So it's been a fun ride, and always trying to think what's the next thing I can do to try to provide value. The podcast I love, and glad you've listened to that, Brittany. We got to get you on too. I know we're going to do a little swap on that, so we'll do that. But that's the short version among many. I call the bridge of tears of failing forward faster than most people. So that's the short abbreviated version.
So interesting. Okay, so tell us, whenever you joined your network marketing company, how long from the time you joined did it take you to get to the top of the pay plan?
Yeah, so there's top of the pay plan, and then there's what was my real income, right? Because when you're part of an established company, oftentimes you hit a pay plan, and I'll give both answers for you. And I just want to be transparent with all of you. The top of the pay plan was average person was making $500,000 a year. When I got to the top of the pay plan, because the company had been around for over 35 years, it was a legit average, but you got all these people that have a mature organization. So mine was a novice. I didn't know these things. So I thought when I get here, I'm going to be making this. I wasn't that smart. And I ended up getting there after 10 months in the company. And as I got there at 10 months, I was making about $10,000 a month, which is great money. Remember, I was making about that running a tennis club. But at that time, there wasn't very much online stuff back in 2008, 2009. In fact, like they would shame you if you did stuff with social media. Like that stuff doesn't work, it doesn't duplicate. So I did no social media through all that sponsoring and recruiting. In fact, I didn't really start focusing on social media until about 2014. So I learned old school, even though now people think like I'm all just like social media and new school. I'm actually a combo because I learned how to do it old school, and I'm so grateful. And now I can combine those timeless principles. And so I got there in 10 months. I was making 10 grand a month, but the 10 grand a month with the travel, I mean, I traveled to Argentina thinking I'm going to have this huge team because they promised to have 1,000 people there. And there was like 6 people at my meeting. And then I remember driving all the way from Utah to Arizona, and there was like 5 people at the meeting. And then we drove to California. There was going to be 100, and there was legit no one showed up. And so I was using a lot of that income for travel to really just try to build the business. And so it was like one of those, my wife's like, is this going to work? And I'm like, uh-huh. And in my mind, I'm like, I have no freaking clue. Like, I think so. I'm trying. I don't know what I did, quitting a job, running a tennis club. So hit it in 10 months, cool title, low end of the average. And then it took time for it to mature.
Okay, so how long were you actually doing network marketing? How long were you building that biz?
2008 to about 2017, 16,
Okay.
17.
Okay, so like almost a decade.
Yeah, and it felt like 20 years with quitting a job and working 80 hours a week. I mean, I didn't even watch a second of TV in my first 6 months, like not 1 second. It was just, I was like, hey, if I'm going to do this for my family, then I'm going to go all in, and I'm just going to fail forward as fast as anyone possibly can. And I will tell you this, anything great is always harder than you think it's going to be.
Mhm.
Unless you get lucky or you have crazy momentum, it's always harder. Always. And this is not just network marketing. This is life. Go ask anyone who's great at anything, whether it's an actor, an actress, or a crazy pro athlete, and they're always going to say, it was harder than I thought it was going to be. It's just a success principle. And I knew it was going to be hard. It was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. And it's also been much more worth it than I could have ever imagined. I mean, now I coach my son and daughter's high school tennis teams. That's over 6 months of the year, 25 hours a week. We get to do 6+ family vacations a year. My wife and I do 2 a year. I get to help out with a lot of like local things here. I get to help out with my church. I get to help out with just different things that for me, that's what it's about. If I'm gonna brag, I'm gonna brag about the memories that I get to create and the time and stuff like that. So it's much more worthwhile than I could have ever imagined as well.
All right, so it sounds like you started your network marketing biz. That was a struggle at the beginning to get yourself to do the actual work and not fake work. And then you figured some things out, shot to the top of the pay plan, and then it was years of expanding, failing forward, developing yourself, and growing, and just like a lot of learning took place after you had that quick success in the beginning. Is that about right?
Yep, that's 100%. I mean, it's learning how to become a leader of leaders. I mean, in the beginning, right? You're just you become good at recruiting and sponsoring, then you want to get good at duplicating, then you become a leader of followers. But becoming a leader of leaders is hard. And so I'd grow and build, and I'm like, oh, I've arrived, right? Because we're directional thinkers, we're optimists in network marketing. It's like, oh, I made 8 grand this month. If I make 8 grand this month, the way I'm headed, by the end of this year, it's going to be like 14,000. And give me a year and a half, right? We're directional thinkers. And even though we know that's not reality, it's still how we think. And so, yeah, it was like this, up, up, up. It's like building a castle, brick, 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 brick. While I'm making progress, 5 bricks fall off. Then I put on 10. Wow, I'm crushing it. 5 more fall off. Then I put 10 more. And so it's that process over and over and over again of just, learning. But also part of learning, as we know, is it's taking that massive deliberate action.
Yeah, definitely. I see my leaders laughing in the chat saying, "Relate, I relate." All right, so what inspired you to write this book in particular about mindset for network marketers?
I just didn't, and I'm sure I don't want to like generalize. I didn't feel like this is me, and maybe there is, that there was a network marketing book focused on mindset. Like that's it. And I'm not saying there is, I just didn't know of one. And I felt like you can't outperform your mindset. So I see all these network marketers that I would work with and coach, myself included, and they learn all the skills. They become so good at social media and reels and posts, and they become so good at the invite and the follow-up and the close, and they learn all these things. But at the same time, there would be this, whether you call it self-sabotage or these limiting beliefs, and they would get to this point right here where they would hit this ceiling over and over and over again. And
Mhm.
so I looked at it and I thought, you know what? Mindset will eat skills and systems for breakfast. When you have the right mindset, you're going to figure out everything else. Now, you still have to figure it out, but you will because you've opened to that. And I looked at even the leaders, even myself. I looked at myself and how many times I was a survivor and not a conqueror, and how many times I was fake working, and how many times, right? I was there, making the plan for the plan of the plan, and like, hey, like Betsy, like, did you watch the Zoom? And like, I'm pretending like I'm working. I'm not saying don't do that, but it takes 2 seconds, right? It's like anything you need, I'm here for you, right? I'm the super supportive upline. But in reality, we hear the speed of the leader, speed of the pack. We hear what you do speak so loudly. I cannot hear what you say, as Ralph Waldo Emerson says. We hear all these cliches, and cliches are cliches for a reason because they're timeless principles. And so I just thought, you know what? Like I'm gonna be vulnerable. I mean, my wife, when she was reading, she's like, I didn't know some of this stuff, right? She's like, my family was like laughing about it. And I'm like, I just wanted to be like real and show like we all have these insecurities, and it's okay to own them and say, hey, this is who I am, this is who I want to become, right? And then I also felt like it was so important to, I felt like most people say victim or survivor, and I just felt like most network marketers are survivors. And I'm not saying that's bad, because we want to transition to survivor, but you go to a convention and 90+%, I don't know the exact number, 90+% are survivors. But just, I'm not quitting. That's good. But no one's going to have success just from that. It's a necessary, vital step, but it's not enough. So let me celebrate it, but also tell you and give you some tough love. It's not enough. It's like saying, I want to climb Mount Everest to have success. You get to the first little summit there, base camp, where you just stop, plant your flag and say, I'm never quitting. Are you ever going to get to the top? No. So it's a necessary, vital step to get to the base camp, and it's good, but it's not good enough. And I think that needs to be said, because again, we're so used to confusing being busy with being productive. And so it's like, oh, I work so hard, like I did, as they say in the book. But in reality, I'll tell you this, 99% of people, even leaders that say they work like 50 hours a week, most of them could get like 95% of the most important things in probably 20 hours. The rest of the stuff, most of the time, not always, I know there's momentum, is busy work. So for me, I just felt like this is what I was like writing to myself, what I wish I would have known when I started and had that butt kicking, and how I could actually just communicate it and convey it. And I'll tell you this, there's some shocking things that happen. The amount of people that reached out to me after the book didn't surprise me. The amount of 6 and 7 figure earners that reached out to me that said, I've been in survivor mode, shocked me.
Hmm.
That I did not expect at all. And they said, Rob, I need to be in the conqueror mindset more. I've been too much in the survivor mindset. That was the big kind of insight post book that wasn't expected.
Very interesting. Well, I definitely agree with you that I had not found a good mindset book specifically for network marketers either. And people ask me all the time, like, what book do you recommend to somebody who's stuck in their mindset? And I would always say, well, there's not just one. If there was like one magical book we could all read and it would cure our mindset, then we'd all just read it and go be millionaires. But then I found this book. And I really, that is the one I will now recommend going forward. When somebody
Thank you.
says, if you're a network marketer and you're stuck in your mindset, what's the best mindset book? This is the best one I've read. And I've read a bunch. All right. So, what made you realize that you had a victim mindset or a survivor's mindset? Like, how did you figure out the difference between the two or between the three, really? And what are the triggers that cause you to revert to that victim or survivor mindset now? And how do you get yourself out of it now?
Yeah, it's a good post question. I mean, the first thing is awareness. Awareness is one of the most important words. And that's why the books can help, because they create awareness. And when you have awareness, then you can improve something. Like if you don't have awareness, right? Like I'll give you an example. My wife and I were just talking about it. Like she is insanely feisty. Like, and I love it most of the time. And we have like the best relationship. As the other night we were saying, my daughter said something and I corrected her, and I thought I was being like so nice. And she told me after, like she let me have it. She said I was being like I talked rudely. And I was like, I sorry, I didn't even feel like I did like 1%. That didn't go over well. I shouldn't have said the 1% thing. And then I stopped. I was like, well, all that matters is if that's how you felt, then I'm wrong. Just tell me right in the moment and I'll stop. Right. But the awareness, I wasn't aware. And there's when you're not aware, how do you fix something? So her telling me helped me create the awareness. So for all of you reading the book, now hopefully you have that awareness. You can even put like victim, survivor, conquer like in your office, and you can look at it and see where you're at. So I want you to do a couple things. I want you to realize there's nothing wrong with you when you have a quick fleeting moment or even days of being a victim survivor. Okay, there's nothing, you're normal, you're human. Everyone has it. The better leader you are, the less of those you have, and more importantly, the quicker you shift out of those. That's the more important thing. I want you to think about that. The quicker you shift out of those. Okay, so for me, how I looked at it is I started buying. What I do is whenever I have a concept in my mind, I legit buy every book, read every article I can on different like little things. Like for example, when I wrote the game of networking and I studied, like there's literally like probably 5 paragraphs on body language. I probably read 5 books for those 5 paragraphs. And I just figure I'm learning and then I'll add what I want. So I bought everything I could, researched everything I could, because my theory was, victims focus too much on the past. That was like my theory I wanted to prove. And survivors, I didn't really know. I just felt like survivors kind of hang on. And what I learned through my research and challenging my own thoughts and what I've seen with people is survivors focus on the future. They're someday network marketers. Someday isn't one of the 7 days of the week. That's why they're always just stuck. If they don't quit, they're at the events 10 years later, they haven't made any progress. And the goal is hopefully someday you get so freaking sick and tired of being sick and tired, and that you hang on enough, not bad to be a survivor, much better to be a conqueror. You say, you know what, I'm going to become a conqueror. And then I thought, okay, because they was just talk one or the other, I didn't know the word to really come up with it. And so for me, it just came to me one day, just like, the conquerors, like they conquer, like they take action, they make it happen. And so I looked at it as is survivors focus on the past. or sorry, survivors focus on the future, victims focus on the past. Right? My T was wrong, product was back ordered, my upline didn't know everything that like was in the past. And we can't control the past because it's done. We can't even control the future. The only thing we control is the present. So I thought, okay, conquers the present. So conquers learn from the past, borrow from the future, focus on the present. And that's kind of how I explain it now, even more so like post book. And so for me, when I have negative thoughts, I try to quickly think, okay, spend 10% of the time on the problem, 90% of the solution. So I think it's okay as long as I don't dwell on those. What's the problem? Identify it so that I can focus on solutions, 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 solutions to help out. And it still happens, but when it happens, it's for me, it's rarely a victim moment. It's more of a survivor moment, and I know how to get out of it quicker. Even though I still have them, I just have them less. But I still have them. We all have them. So when COVID hit, I'll give you all just a perfect example. I'll just be fully just honest, transparent. I landed this big company that wanted me to do not just a normal like speaking engagement. They wanted me to do like a full day training for their top 100 leaders. And I've been trying to land this for like a couple of years. The money was incredible, but the impact and influence that it would have had that would have led to everything. So I'll just tell you numbers. $50,000, go speak for one day, right? Everyone's like, yeah, sign me up. And I'm just like, yes, I'm so excited. COVID hits, and they tell me that not only is it postponed, but it's canceled. Do you think that I was a conqueror in the moment? Like, yay, like, hashtag seriously so blessed, right? Like you start thinking all the great things. Like, no, I was a victim. And my victim, like, I'm more like quiet, internalized mad, not loud. And in my mind, I'm just like mad, just like, oh, like really? Like seriously? Right? And then you have like 3 other speaking engagements completely canceled and stuff. And the next day I shifted survivor mode. I'm like, well, it could be worse, at least, life's good and this and this and this. But I was a survivor. And then all of a sudden, and Emily, I can't read the comments because I have ADHD. It stands for dude has dreams. So I have to like avoid those. So all of a sudden, after like a couple of days, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make this the best thing that ever happened to me. How can I make this the best thing that ever happened to me? And at that time, I only had 2 books out. Now I think I have 12, right? Think about that when COVID first hit. I got a planner, a journal out. At the time, I was kind of posting. Now I post in the game of networking like twice a day. My podcast, I double down on. I have a Facebook group that's for only 6, 7, 8 figure earners. It's free. So if anyone's not in it, you can message me later. I'll get you in it. But you have to have made 6 figures in a year and at least the last couple of years. We have 1,500 members in there, and the group is crazy active. I post in there every day. And so I was posting once a week. So they said, I'm going to post every day. It was the best thing that ever happened. And so you see how like I could recognize it, and I knew it, and I knew it was happening, the triggers, right? And so then I thought, okay, 10% of the problem, 90% of the solution. And sometimes I go on gratitude binges. I'm doing this with my daughter right now, incredible tennis player. She's in a slump. And so we're focusing on fun, and we're focusing on gratitude for of what she loves about tennis. I'm like, love just competing. And so I still have to practice what I preach, with different things on it. I still go through it. I just know how to recognize it and get through it a little bit quicker. So those are some things that I do. So if you're ever going through it, just go on the all out, just gratitude binge, like legit life, but also network marketing, like what you love about network marketing, like find things that you love. So you start really just, creating that positive type energy.
I love that. I love how can I make this the best thing that's ever happened to me? That is so good. Okay, so you said victims live in the past, survivors in the future, conquerors they learn from the past, borrow from the future, but focus on the present. So what would you
Wow. Good
say to
memory.
somebody? Oh, well, I read this book twice. But as you were saying that, I was thinking, there are people that I know that they're definitely in survivor mode, but you probably wouldn't be able to convince them of that because they would say they are focused on the present, but they're also kind of making themselves victim. For example, like how would you help somebody who they think that they are in conqueror mode, but really they're letting their they're blaming their circumstances for holding them back or for why they're not being successful.
Yep.
Like my husband's not supportive or something, because that's not in the past. That's actually happening right now.
Yeah.
So, how would you guide somebody who is blaming a current present circumstance for their lack of results?
So victims can also focus on the present if they're only focused on the problems. So that's the easiest way. If your mindset is focusing more than 10% of the time on the problem, you are a victim. Now, I'm not taking away from the excuse. I get it. But is it going to serve you or help you? No. So I'm not saying that you're like, Rob, you don't understand. I don't understand. It could be like, I'm going through a divorce. I only have 3 hours a week to work. I'm suffocating. I'm filing foreclosure, bankruptcy. I'm dealing with depression. I'm dealing with this with a child. And like, I'm not going there. I was vulnerable and shared my most vulnerable experience in the book. And anytime I share that on stage, I have people come up to me and the craziest stories I've ever heard, like things they're like, I've never shared this before, and they'd share and so I'm not going there and saying that it's not legitimate. What I am saying is you're giving that too much power. You're giving away your power. And we can go through famous people that have been through just as much, and in some cases, much more, and have had crazy success. So, are you going to turn your struggle into your story? Are you going to turn your mess into your message? Because your struggle isn't your story if you don't overcome. That's a pretty bad story, right? But you can turn it into the most powerful part of your story. Don't give the power away. So the first question to ask yourself is, what percent of the time am I focused on the solutions? Because the problems, they only serve me to create awareness. After that, I'm giving them power, even if it's legit. Because look at the brain as like this crazy power algorithm. Look at the social media algorithms. It's this algorithm on steroids. We want to calibrate this algorithm to work for us rather than against us. Because when we create more awareness to the problem, we see our problems amplify. When we create more awareness to the solution, we find more solutions and we overcome and we become conquerors. And so for all of you, that's my challenge is again, I'm trying to show empathy here, like in very sincerely. I believe that some of you have problems that people like would be bawling if they heard problems you're going through. Don't give them power. And I would tell you that in tough love, and you'd probably have me in tears if you shared it with me. And I would look at you and I'd say, I am so sorry. Don't give it any more power. I want you to focus on the solutions right now. Then you look at it and you say, okay, I'm focused on solutions, but what's my activity? And I would just track the percentage of time and where you spend it. So let's say that it's like do it for a whole week. That would be an easy, not easy, but it would be a powerful challenge for you. Is see where you spend your time. How many hours did you work for the week? And look at basic things. Of those hours, how much time did you spend making brand new invites? Right? We know invites, whether business or products. Or number two could be talking with new people. Maybe it's third-party validations. That counts. How much time? Because most of the time, let's say someone spends 20 hours, most of the time they spend less than 2 hours. So that means that you spent at most 10% of your time, right? And the more you can shift that, the more successful you'll be, because time is the most valuable thing we have on this earth. It's the most valuable thing. We all have the same amount of time every day. We don't know when is our last day, right? We know how valuable those memories are and what we're doing this for. And so respect yourself, right? Most of us are people pleasers. I'm a recovering people pleaser. Like I'm the presidente of the Recovering People Pleaser Club. If you want to apply for VP, you can, but I'm El Presidente, recovering. Okay. And it, the way you take care of others is crazy, but you don't take care of yourself. So let's give power back to empowering yourself so that you can help empower others. So that would be my take on it. I don't know any of these questions either. Brittany asked me. I'm like, nah, just ask. You're good. I
I was
like
like,
just going off the cuff.
do you want to prepared? You want to know what I'm going to ask you? He's like, no, we're going uh totally winging it here. So these answers are definitely genuine. He has not premeditated any of this. So I think that resonated with people though, Rob, because the comments are definitely blowing up over that. I think that was encouraging. All right, so you said you have a group for six-figure earners. So next question is, what qualities and characteristics do you notice that people who make it to a six-figure income in network marketing have?
I mean, there's a lot of answers, but there's simple answers. Like if we want to go really basic and then go more complex, successful people just do the basics better. So what are those basics? Like I've done this. I remember doing this in an event that I was running that had about 700 people at it. And I said, okay, who are all the top earners in the room? And we had maybe 50. And I said, okay, I'm like, of all of you top earners, when you absolutely just smashed it, crushed it, did you follow some elaborate system? Everyone sat down but 1 out of 50. Every other one, and systems are great. Don't take the systems can help amplify. So I'm not saying don't follow the system. My point is follow the system. But the main system everyone followed is they said, I just went out all crazy and I made a massive amount of new invites. Now, I'm not saying like go be spammy pammy, right? Where you're just like, person you haven't talked to in 15 years, hey, you interested in a business opportunity, right? Like, and they're just like, oh my gosh, right? And I'm not saying that. Like I understand like there's ways to do it. I know that, some of you like to do it in the first conversation, some in the third, but not the first message. Like that's a whole different thing. So I'm not saying to become that at all. We don't want to be takers. We want to be givers. What I am saying is the most important thing that they all did that's in common is they go on all out crazy focused blitzes of making mass amounts of new invites for people. Now, how you go about that, like I said, that's different for people. For me, one of the skills that I learned was become a networker first and a network marketer second. So I always did 300 personal messages, non-business related every month. And you're like, well, what do you say? That's only 10 a day. Between like people's birthdays or you see their posts rather than commenting on their posts, they just go to Messenger and be like, hey, I saw you just went to I saw you just traveled to Portugal. Like that's on my bucket list. Want to go there next? What was your favorite part? Like just be a good human being. It takes 2 seconds. That's it. I'm not building fake rapport. I'm just being a good human being. I'd love for them to join my business. There's nothing wrong with that. I'd love for them to buy my products. If they don't, that's okay. I'm being a good human being. And how much easier it is when they reach out to me about something or I reach out to them about the business. So I was constantly doing that, right? So it was easier when I wanted to go on these blitzes as I went. And so that's the top thing that I see. The second thing with it is these leaders, they have more emotional intelligence and more emotional grit. And what I mean by that is not intelligence like they're like crazy smart. I should just say more emotional grit. It's more of they go through the highs and lows, but they can handle them a little bit more. It doesn't mean that, like for me, even though I was the number one recruiter of a million distributors, I never got to the point where I reach out to a friend and they reject me. I'm like, oh, that feels so amazing. Like I feel so great right now. It always hurt. I know for some people, they're like, next. For me, it always hurt me. Always, always, always. Now it hurt less, but it always hurt my feelings a little bit. A little bit. Always. I never got over it. But guess what? My ambition, my goals, my dreams, my vision, all of that was bigger than my fears. Like I talk about in the book, my fears on a scale 1 to 10, yeah, they're, I don't know, 9.7, 9.8, but my goals, my dreams, my ambitions were 10. And so knowing that helped me that I was willing to overcome. And that willingness and grit is so key to handle those emotions because you will get your butt kicked. You will get your butt kicked. You will get rejected. You will have bad days, bad weeks, bad months. Sometimes I remember months where I did all the work. I did everything that was right and I didn't do very well. And I remember sometimes the next month where I did very little and I crushed it. Now, sometimes it was from the seeds that I planted the month before. Sometimes it just works out that way as you go. That's why it's marry the process, date the results as you go, right? It's like, yeah, results are important for a little bit of feedback, but we truly just marry that process. And so for me, I look at it, I look at these top earners and they did that to get there. And the ones that have stayed there and not become has-been leaders, because a lot of them They misinterpret residual income. There's no business where someone just builds and then they just like done, step away. That's promoted wrong. As a leader, you still care about your teams. Now, you can still have your seasons where you go take a couple months off, but you're still plugging into leadership and stuff, and you're doing less. That's the dream. But you still got to stay in tune and plugged in and still stay in that conquer mindset and some of those income producing activities so you don't become a has-been leader. And that's why some of these leaders, right? We see right now, especially the last year with their productivity wasn't there at all. Now they're trying to show up. That's why I think it's awesome, Brittany, that you have this and you keep doing this. And it's important that you do that, right? It's important you stay with it and keep helping to develop your team and show up for them. So it's amazing.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah, that was really good. Very insightful. Um, what would you say are the biggest differences you notice between a six-figure earner and a seven-figure earner?
Six-figure earners are leaders of followers and they get stuck. Seven-figure earners are leader of leaders. So a six-figure earner would be, and that I discussed some of that. If you guys want like next level, like your rank advancement blueprint is my book that's more on leadership. And so the six-figure earners, you get to the point where everyone just relies on you and comes to you, but you're not developing other levels of leadership. So let's say you're on a scale 1 to 10 and 8, you're going to have a bunch of sevens. And at some point, there's not enough leverage. The key to wealth is leverage. And at some point, everything is just you, always, like everything. And so if you want to become a leader of leaders, that's hard because you're going to have leaders that disagree with you. There's things that they want to do, and you have to learn to empower and support them, even on some of the differences, as long as they're not ethical differences, right? But strategic differences. You want to be together as much as you can, cohesive, but you also want to develop them as you go. And so there's lots of ways to do that. Like, for example, I'll give you guys one little tidbit of, I coach this crew that's done really well. And about a year and a half ago, I worked with them for 6 months, and I helped them create committees. And so they created inside of their team to become leaders, different committees. So they had a committee for recognition. They had a committee for events that they would do. And it could be retreats, team retreats, showing up to the convention a day or two before, stuff like that. They had a committee for humanitarian. So they started becoming leaders of leaders. They started creating, for training, they had their committee as they went. They started finding ways to just empower their other leaders. They started creating very close-knit leadership development programs that people had to earn. And they figured out what the criteria was for people to qualify to be on high-level trainings, whether it's training like this or whatever it is that you do. And so it was like a 3-strike system. And they're like, hey, we're not the ones giving you strikes. You give it to yourself. So there's lots of ways, but the biggest difference is leaders of followers, everything's relying on just them. And I was stuck there for a while. And leaders of leaders, you learn to empower and develop the other leaders that are beneath you to the point of you really truly want them. You don't just say you want them to be better than you, right? As you go. And so it's definitely a process. It's not easy, but that's like the next level for all of you if you want to go from 6 to 7 figures.
I love it. Okay, so good. Inquiring minds would like to know, what are your daily habits?
Ooh. So I have daily, weekly, and method or monthly method of operations. I think some goals should be weekly and some are daily. For me, what I do is I have a priority list. I don't call it to list anymore. And I got on the side like a list of like everything I need to get done. But then I have my priorities and I try to create my top 5 priorities. And then I have under them maybe my next, but I only focus on the 5. I look at them before bed and I look them in the morning, the next morning, but I put them in my calendar because if it's important, it's going to be scheduled. These are priority appointments that I've made with myself. If you say you're going to do something, you do it. Now, if there's emergencies, I don't cancel those. I reschedule. So for all of you, if it's making brand new invites, and let's say Monday's your day, you got so much energy, and you're like, you know what? I like the weekly thing that Rob said. Rather than do daily, I think that's a good weekly goal. You're like, I'm going to do that as a weekly. I'm going to make 20 new invites, and I'm going to knock out, maybe half of them Monday. And Monday comes and kid's sick. You're like, oh, crap. You don't cancel it, you reschedule it. And I keep rescheduling till it gets done because it's annoying. But my calendar is my new boss because I don't have a boss. And so that's something that I stick with. So for me, things that I do, I'm like crazy people. So don't feel like you have to be this crazy. I have to have structure. For me, I really truly feel like show me your habits and I'll show you your future. And we're all living Groundhog Day. Um, so I do personal development every single day. My goal is an hour. Most of the time, I'm going to do that at the gym. And if I can't do that at the gym, then, I try to find nooks and crannies like, driving to the gym, way back from the gym, stuff like that. My goal as well is to do an hour of working out 5 days a week. I do pickleball now is like my new like cardio thing. So I'm up there now. My goal is to get a 5.0. I started like a year and a half ago. So now I'm like a 5.3, which I'm like hitting my goals, but it just never stops. So I do that about 7 hours a week. I did 2 hours today, did 2 hours Wednesday and 2 hours Thursday. Who knows what else? So it's 6, 7 hours. So I do that every week. That gets me my cardio as I go. Sundays is pure family day. So I'll respond to messages and stuff, but I don't do like Zooms, calls, anything unless I'm out of town. Saturdays is slower for me as well. It's more like family stuff. Maybe I do like quick hour or something. Monday until about Friday at 2 is just crush the business. Now, of course, I'll have like different things, whether it's like kids function or that, do something with, the kids. I'll play with my kids tennis and stuff like that as we go. But Friday and Saturday, usually date night with my wife, unless my kids have like a function or something as we go. So I try to do the health. Then I prioritize on my business, the things that I need to do, and I go do them. So the priorities are different, whether it's writing a book, right? I've got a PR website that Fraser Brooks and I just started called networkmarketingbuzz.com. So that's one of our priorities. I run a social media program with Coach Fryer. So I've got that as a top priority. I'm always writing another book. And then I've got my events like my Leaders Mastermind. And then I have my content that's always in like the game of networking and my Leaders, my 6, 7, and 8 figure club. So I have those main things of what I know I need to do. And then I just time block on those and I just bam, just focus. The other thing I want to point out is my energy levels creatively are through the roof till about 1 p.m. And then they just like they crash. So Zooms like these are easy. Like those are second nature for me. But anything that takes my creative brain, like content creation, I always try to do before noon. Zooms, as much as I can, I try to do after. So I've also shifted when I do what, depending on how that type of my brain is working, what type of energy that I need as I go. Because yeah, 2 p.m. comes and then it's like I feel so slow on getting stuff done as we go. And so I've had to shift like different things at different times of the week and different days. So I lay out my whole like week and month as I go, like all of you, right? When you want to finish the month strong, all of that type of stuff. And I'm still always challenging and changing it. But my calendar is my boss. I try to schedule as much as I can, even if that's like a break, or kids come home from school, or I'm doing this or that, like as much as I can. And even if, like I said, even if that's free time, as much as I can, though, I try to get things scheduled.
Okay. The leaders in the chat would like you to tell them that they can be millionaires without doing cold plunges.
I love hearing that stuff because it's funny. Like my friends and I joke. I meet with a lot of network marketing friends that are really successful. We're like, it's funny. It's like now it's like you got to get up at 5 a.m. You got a cold plunge. You got it right. Like all these things, and all those things are extra. They're like little things that absolutely can do and can help, and everybody's a little bit different. But I didn't get up at 5 a.m., right, to get to a millionaire. I didn't cold plunge to get to a millionaire, right? I didn't but I've added things on as I've become more and more healthy. Yeah, the last 13 months I've gone on like a crazy, crazy, insane health binge. I want to have more energy. My kids told me I couldn't get abs. My teenagers, it was so mean. They're like, you have a dad bod, you can't get abs. So I'm like, that's it. That's it. So you go through different little phases, but yes, those are all like side things as you go, right? As you're just trying to improve life and just win and be disciplined at whatever you can.
But not a requirement for seven figures, just to be
Not a requirement. I
okay.
still don't do cold plunges, and my friends make fun of me, like you got to, and it's like I'm almost like the opposite stubborn, right? I've got JOMO, joy of missing out. It's the opposite problem
I
of.
relate.
So
I have never
you
related
know,
so hard to
like
something. Oh my gosh, that is hilarious. I also have JOMO. Okay,
just
Rob,
push back.
this is so
When they all stop
valuable.
doing it, I probably will. Like sometimes I'm too stubborn. It works for good most of the time. Sometimes it doesn't though.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes it backfires. All right. Well, this was so helpful. Do you want to tell everybody like how they can find you, how they can learn more about how they can learn more from you, how they can
Yeah,
work with you? Do you want to tell us what your offers are?
cool. So you guys can always just go to my Facebook page. Is everybody in the game and networking Facebook group?
Probably not. We've only read this. I read the game of networking, but
Well,
I
I have a Facebook group and it's the largest generic group, active group in network marketing. It has 67,000 people in it and it's crazy active. Like it just keeps growing. And I post content in there twice a day. And so that's the best place where you can kind of I give like updates on whatever it is I'm doing. Like right now, anyone who's a leader that wants to be in a book collab with me, you can just private message me. I can give you information, but we'll have 24 authors. This will be my ninth book collaboration. We always get it top on Amazon. And I expose it to my podcast and listen to 160 countries. I expose it to all that, to everything, and all the other leaders. Simon Chan will be in it. Some others will be in it. And so that's what I got going on right now. But if you go to the game of networking, you'll see that. And then if you're a six-figure earner, if you made six figures in a year, even if it's like you didn't last year, but you did like 3 years ago, just reach out to me and I'll invite you. That group's free as well. So both those things are free, the game of networking and another leaders group, and you'll get really, really good content from it. And then I'll just say, get on Amazon. Like if you love the game of conquering, you guys will love this book. I only did hardcover. That's why it's more expensive. I think I make $1.50 off each book. Not much, but for me, I didn't care. I wanted to do it really well. So that's my new book, Die with Memories, Not Just Dreams. So those are the main things, my friends, my new friends that I get to meet virtually.
excited. So, are you still doing the podcast? You do still have a podcast,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Yep. Still do the
What's
podcast.
it
It's
called?
Network Marketing Breakthroughs with Rob Sperry. And I think we're up to like 290 episodes.
Yes. All
So you
right.
can
I'll check
find
it out.
so much there.
So, favorite things, the quote where you said, "How can I make this the best thing that's ever happened to me?" Love that. Love that we don't have to do cold plunges. Love Jomo. Love so much of what you said tonight, Rob. Incredibly valuable. I think everybody loved it. So thank you for investing in my team. And I'm looking forward to learning more from you.
Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it and hope it was insightful. And as always, I hope that we have awareness and recognition. There's nothing wrong with you when you got your victim or survivor moments. Just learn how to shift out of them quicker and go become a conqueror. Appreciate you all and have a great rest of your evening and great rest of your week.
All right. Thank you, Rob. Good
We'll
night.
see ya.
Bye.